Hello everyone! Today I'm going to be giving you my top 10 tips on how to have a fun and safe vacation at Universal Orlando Resort during COVID. If at any point you'd like to subscribe to my channel, feel free to hit that button on the bottom right hand corner. I have a lot of information for you, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it with tip number 10. If you can, buy a neck fan. These things are amazing. They have 5 different speeds. You can almost hear how loud it is. The fifth speed is very, very fast, so it does give off a lot of air. You literally just put it around your neck. It gives you a nice breeze. You don't have to bother with it. It's not uncomfortable at all. It's actually very light. I believe ours was $25 on Amazon. I will post the link in the description down below. They definitely help with the Florida heat, the humidity. It gives you a nice breeze. The only thing is you do have to put it in a locker for the rides. So if you're not carrying a bag, it may be a little bit of an inconvenience just to walk to the lockers, just to put your fan away. But to me, it's worth it. Tip number 9, bring extra masks and bring your own hand sanitizer. I always recommend bringing at least one extra mask with you, more if you're using the cotton woven ones. So if you are using these masks, which are the really thick cotton woven fabric masks, you are going to get very hot very easily. These are very hard to breathe in, and they tend to stick to your face when you get sweaty. These actually cause my face to break out when I sweat, so I don't wear them to the park at all. Universal does sell their own masks, which are made out of like a polyester blend fabric, and they are so soft on your face and so easy to breathe in. Literally, I wore my woven mask to the park and I bought this one, and I don't even think I've worn my woven one since. They're so soft, so breathable. They are 2-ply like recommended, and they are $8, I believe, per mask. The only issue with these masks is they don't sell them in small. So all of the masks that they have, they only sell them in medium and large. I am a medium, and some run smaller than others. If a medium is running big on you, you can literally just wash it with a normal load of clothes. So I wash it with like hot water, and I dry it on high heat because then that'll shrink the material a little bit and it typically fits better. You only want to do that the first time because then after a couple more times, it will severely shrink. The only mask that Universal does offer in a kid's small size is the Minions mask and the Unicorn mask. So those are the only 2 throughout the park that you're going to be able to find in a small. Another mask that I highly recommend getting is just a simple medical mask. These are the easiest to breathe in. They are super lightweight. So if you don't want to spend money on a universal mask or a cloth mask, just order a box of these. We ordered them on Amazon and they came with like 50 in a box for $10. And again, I will post the link in the description below. So I did include bringing hand sanitizer in this tip. They do have hand sanitizer literally everywhere. You can go into the bathroom to wash your hands. And then before every ride, they do make you sanitize your hands as well with their hand sanitizer. But it is sticky and I don't really like it. So as soon as I get off the ride, I just use my own hand sanitizer, and it makes it a lot easier when you're about to eat. That way you don't have to run to a bathroom or go try to find a hand sanitizer up on a wall somewhere. Tip number 8, use the Euro rest areas. It gets very, very, very hot, and there's no reason not to. Take a 5-minute break, take your mask off, drink some water, and just relax for a little bit. Another important thing to note is that you're not supposed to walk while eating or drinking. You're supposed to be stationary. So usually I'll grab a snack and just go sit in the UO rest area. They all have benches, tables with chairs, and all of that stuff to make it super easy and super relaxing. When you are in the UO rest areas, please be mindful of other groups and make sure you are staying at least 6 feet, if not more, from other people. Tip number 7, it is very important that you have your card information saved into the Universal Orlando app on your phone because most quick service restaurants only accept mobile ordering. You can order without it, but the process is so much longer and you may have to wait a very long time for your food and to cash out and do all that stuff. So just to make it faster for you, it's better to already have it saved and go ahead and take advantage of the mobile ordering. You don't have to be near the restaurant to order. You can be anywhere in the park. So you can go ahead and put your order in and then start walking over to the restaurant. I do know that restaurants like Leaky Cauldron and all of that don't start preparing your food until you get there, but I have mobile ordered from Voodoo Donuts, and they just have a thing that says like, I'm on my way, and they'll start making the donuts for you, and then I'll tell you when they're ready. So I'm not sure which other restaurants utilize that yet. We haven't used much of mobile ordering because we've been getting like crepes and stuff from like the walk-up places, but definitely have your cards saved in there. Another tip to kind of tag onto this one, the lines for food can be really long on weekends, even with mobile ordering. So if you have little ones, I highly suggest bringing a like small lunch bag. You can bring a soft-sided cooler or like lunch bag as long as it's no larger than 8.5 inches by 6 inches by 6 inches. You can bring up to 2 liters of water or anything that doesn't need to be heated up in a microwave. So my go-to is like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, granola bars, or anything like that. That way, if you do have to wait in a long line or a restaurant is in a really long wait, you at least have something to snack on in the meantime. Again, this is another bag that you'd have to put into a locker, so that's something to take into consideration. But if you have a family, this is typically a really good idea. You can also just bring a backpack and stick that bag into your backpack. That way you're not carrying around multiple things. Tip number 6, which is very important but very obvious. Stand on the 6-foot marker line, not in between the two of them. That line is pretty much a dot or a line for you to stand on to make sure that you are 6 feet away from the group in front of you and behind you. If the group behind you or in front of you, well, I guess if they're in front of you, it's your fault if you're too close to them. But if the group behind you is too close to you, just very kindly ask them to step back a little bit, or when you scoot up, if they can just stay in their spot to make sure that they're 6 feet away from you. Don't be afraid to do this. Some people may argue back and some people may try to escalate the situation, but just get a team member. There's no reason to be rude to someone who's just trying to ask you to give them their personal space. And for you, don't stand too close to the group in front of you because you don't know if they're feeling the same way. You may be making them uncomfortable, and we don't really want to do that. We want to try to make this as enjoyable as possible for everyone, even if you don't believe that COVID is a big deal. These rules are still intact and they still need to be followed so that everyone can enjoy themselves. Tip number 5. If you're worried about crowds, do not go on a weekend. Don't even try it because it's not going to be a fun time for you. Literally just go on a weekday. If you can't go on a weekday and you have to go on a weekend, try to go on a Sunday. Saturdays are significantly busier than Sundays. Tip number 4 kind of ties into tip number 5. If you have early park admission, use it. There's no reason not to, especially on weekends. The parks get very, very busy right at opening, so it's better if you can get into the parks before that point. Early park admission is included with all the on-site hotels, premier passes, and I believe preferred passes. I have a preferred pass, but I've never tried to go because I'm not a morning person. If you can't get there for early park admission, go later in the afternoon. The busiest times for Universal are 11 p.m. to 4 p.m. So if you can avoid being there during those times on weekends, especially when the park closes at 8, I would suggest so. This is also going to be the times where the lines are the longest as well. If you get there right at park opening, prepare for the garage to be packed. This is the same time that everyone else is trying to get there. You're going to be waiting in a long line at the toll booth, and then you're also going to be waiting a very long line inside the garage as well. And it's very hard to social distance in the garage just because everyone's so confined in a small space. So if you use that early park admission, it's typically an hour before park opens, so typically 8 a.m., meaning that you can get into City Walk at 7 a.m. There are going to be a few cars, but there definitely will not be as many cars as there will be at like 8:30. So like I said, if you have early park admission, just use it. Especially if you're here for a vacation and you may not be coming back for a long period of time. You want to make the most out of the time that you have in the parks anyways. Typically for early park admission, if it's an Islands of Adventure, you have Hagrid's and the Hawk, I believe. If I'm wrong, I will put the right rides right here. And in Universal, I believe it is Escape from Gringotts and Despicable Me. Again, if I'm wrong, the correct ones will be right here. Tip number 3, and this gets asked a lot in the Universal Orlando pass holder page. You can get into a virtual line from pretty much anywhere on property. This includes most of the hotels except for Endless Summer because it's just too far, the garage, either of the parks, and City Walk. You don't need to be near the ride or in that specific park to make a virtual queue. So I highly suggest the second that you are on property, you go ahead and open the app and you get into a virtual line. Please do not do this while you're driving. Wait until you are parked or have someone else in the car do it for you. If you are staying on an on-site hotel, you can do what I do and literally just wake up at like 8:55, which is about 5 minutes before the park opens typically. Sometimes they do open at 10, it just depends. So literally just 5 minutes before park opens. And I will roll over, get the app out, and get in line from the hotel, and then just wake up and start my day then, rather than feeling like I need to wake up and get to the front gate by park open. I would highly recommend being able to get into a virtual queue right at park open. They do release times throughout the day, but they do fill up very fast. Another very important thing to note is that even with a virtual queue spot, you will still have to wait in line. This is not like an express pass or anything like that. There will still be a line. All this does is guarantee you a spot in line if the lines do fill up for the day. So even if you have a virtual queue, still plan to wait a little bit. Your wait may not be as significant as it would be if the line was just completely standby, but you probably will still have to wait a little bit, so just plan for that. You can make up to 3 virtual queues at one time. You don't have to just make one. And the rides that typically end up on virtual queue are Hagrid's, Reign of Kong, Forbidden Journey, Despicable Me, The Mummy, Jimmy Fallon, which is actually always a virtual queue, and Escape from Gringotts. So if you go on a weekend and you know these are rides that you want to ride, definitely get there early to ensure yourself a spot in the virtual queue. On weekdays, this typically isn't something to worry about because they usually just stay on standby anyway. Tip number 2, and I'm sure most people will put this tip way higher up, but this is like my go-to. Bring a fanny pack instead of a backpack if you absolutely can. You don't have to put them into a locker on most rides. I know Hagrid's you don't have to, Men in Black you don't have to, The Mummy you don't have to. The only ride that you absolutely have to take everything out of your pockets and you can't have a fanny pack is the Hulk. So the fanny pack literally stops you from waiting in another line, especially on weekends. The line for the lockers can get ridiculously long. I use this fanny pack that I got off of Amazon, and literally it fits my camera, my tripod, my neck fan, my phone, a charger, my wallet, my masks. I will do a whole video on what I put inside of my fanny pack, and then I will post it in the description down below once I get that up. That way you can see kind of what I bring to the parks each time that I go. But again, having that fanny pack saves you from waiting in a really long line. And honestly, they fit a lot more than most people think. I didn't think that most of my stuff was gonna fit in it, so I wasn't gonna buy it. I really like to use like my Loungefly backpacks, but I didn't like putting them in a locker because it tends to squish them a little bit. So I decided to switch to a fanny pack, and now I love it. And tip number 1, just have fun. Universal is doing everything they can to make sure that you feel safe, that you are safe, and that you're still having fun. So if you are planning a trip during this time, just make sure that you are wearing your mask, washing your hands, doing your best and your part to social distance, and just have fun. The parks are very slow on weekdays. I cannot say the same for weekends. Again, it is really busy on weekends, so if you can, try to go on a weekday, but just make the most of it. Have fun. Enjoy yourselves. We all know we need it after being stuck in the house for almost half a year. Well, these are my top 10 tips on how to have a fun and safe vacation at Universal Orlando Resort during COVID. If you have any tips you'd like to share, feel free to leave them in the comment section below.